officer has been seriously injured after being run over by a suspected car thief in his own patrol car. The officer was trying to arrest a suspect who'd stolen a Range Rover from a woman's shopper in Birmingham this afternoon when the man attacked him and fled in the police vehicle. West Midlands before being arrested a mile away on suspicion of attempted murder. The police officer at East London on Thursday has left 28-year-old PC Stuart Ooten suffered head and injuries. A 56-year-old man's with attempted murder. The FBI says it will investigate the death of millionaire financier Jeffrey Epstein. It's understood the 66-year-old, who had links with rich and powerful figures, took his own life in jail in New York while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. He'd pleaded not guilty to accusations of abusing dozens of age girls. Lawyers have been representing accusers in a previous trial against Mr. Epstein.
I believe that a number of the women are still going to prosecute their claims, not only against Mr. Epstein, but against the people that assisted him in this process. There are a number of co-conspirators that allowed these things to occur.
The National Grid says backup systems on the electricity worked in response to last night's major power cut. The energy regulator Ofgem is demanding answers after the blackout caused travel and cut electricity for people across England and Wales. It wants to know why 2 generators failed at the same time. Grid's Director of Operations, Nigel Burt, says they'll provide a detailed report.
Between 3 and 5 generating units develop a fault and trip every day. To happen, in the space of a few seconds really is exceptionally rare, about once a decade, and that correlates with the last one being 2008.
Unseasonable heavy rain and strong winds have caused further problems for travellers today. Passengers heading into Dover faced delays of 5 hours as tugboats battled the weather into port at a foot of the main rail line between Cumbria and Scotland. UKIP members have elected Richard Brain as their new leader. The chairman of the party's West London branch succeeds Gerard Batten down after May's European elections. The Chancellor is drawing up plans for millions of 50p Brexit coins to be minted for the end of October. They'll carry the words "friendship with all nations." In the Premier League this evening, broke his duck at Tottenham's new stadium as he scored 2 late goals in the win against newly promoted Aston Villa. Kick-off, Raheem Sterling scored a hat-trick as champions Manchester City thrashed West Ham 5-0. LBC weather mostly dry in the suns, slowly easing. Showers elsewhere, lows of 13. Tomorrow, spells and scattered showers, thundery in places, a high of 23 degrees. From Global LBC, I'm Andy Ivy.
This is LBC from Global, leading British station, Clive Bull.
LBC, I'm Clive Bull with you till 10. Coming up at 9, free legal advice in the Legal Hour, and Barrister Barnett will be with me if you have. We're also going to be talking about a new on holiday rights, holiday entitlement for gig economy workers. That's coming up at 9 o'clock. First, would you the armed forces? There's a crisis, we're told, in army recruitment, with frontline units down by up to. Why is it, do you think, that the armed forces are struggling to find new personnel? As well of our different attitude towards military service. 0344 6060 973 for your opinion on this. Experience maybe of being in forces. Text 840 and tweet at LBC. So we're told today Britain faces an army recruitment crisis, frontline combat units as much as 40% below strength. These are figures obtained by The Guardian. Data by the Ministry of Defence under the Freedom of Information laws shows the number of soldiers in the British Army's infantry regiments steadily over the past 5 years. And there are 2,500 fewer personnel in frontline units than in 2015. And all 16 regular regiments have shortfalls. And that's part of a broader picture. Why is this happening? Is it maybe something to do with a lack of patriotism, a lack of faith in the battles that you might be involved in? Foreign Iraq? Is it something to do with that, or is it about the conditions that you have to work in? I mean, if you are an 18-year-old and you're looking choices of career in front of you, would you choose the armed forces? Would you rather work in a call centre? Would it be too much like hard work? What is it? Is it the recruitment process itself? They're just not selling it properly. 0345 6060 973 is the number. And if you are or have worked in forces, would you recommend it? And why do you think it's not the same sort of numbers? Let's talk first to Dan Saber, who's Defence and for The Guardian. Hello, Dan.
Hello.
So these were your figures that were unearthed by The Guardian. Why do you think there is this problem?
There are lots of different reasons, and you've talked about some of them quite well in your introduction to this item. Some of it is, there's a lot about sort of changes and changing society. Some of it is the economy is quite good. Youth unemployment's quite low. It's 5 years ago, for example. So, people have got other career options. There's no secret that the army does indeed do better. It's a bit weaker. Recruitment to the army does do a bit better. But also there's sort of problem about, what's going on in the world and where's the army deployed. And there's sort of two ways of looking at this. One of them is we're not at war. British soldiers were in Iraq until 10 years ago, and Afghanistan 5 years ago on combat operations. And whilst there are peacekeeping operations, a sort of major conflict, and for some people that's a recruitment driver. Some people go, Britain is engaged over there, and we want to be part of that. Also, there's a legacy of those conflicts, though. They weren't popular. Afghanistan was an awful long way away. A lot of controversy about the war in Iraq, of course. So again, not only there's a sort of bad taste in the mouth, if you like. People looking back and going, well, hang on a minute, is the cause always worth fighting for? People are patriotic in this country, but they want to be deployed, want to see the armed forces in a sort of useful, appropriate and humane way. There are peacekeeping missions. They've just 50 troops, British troops are going to go to Mali and West Africa, where there are big problems of security. Islamic insurgency. It's right on our doorstep. It's on Europe's doorstep. Big problems of migration. But it's just a lot, the number is only 250, so it's a lot smaller scale. In one sense, maybe we need a smaller army, and the kind of British society is kind of telling us that.
And some people have said that this is about the recruitment process itself. They outsourced the process, and the outsourcing company hasn't done it very well.
There's undoubtedly some truth in that, although I think there are much more wider social factors. The recruitment's done by a company called Capita. They outsourced it, of course, to save money. I think they tried to save too much money. Remember all those army recruitment centres that used to be sort of on the high street? A few of those. There was a big debate about whether it was a good thing to have a gnarly old soldier sitting in the office. Some people think that's off-putting. Some people think that's that the experience of the job can really sell it to a 16, 18, 21. I think the company Capita has been slightly unfairly blamed, and I think the issues are much broader. I also think youngsters, people aren't as realistic. This country's got a problem with obesity, for example, right? So we've got, frankly, there are a lot of fat kids out there, so that's the number of recruits. There's, even estimates say 10 of serving soldiers are obese. So problem amongst recruits or British society. It's a problem even in the army. There's a problem with things like tattoos. I don't think it's well appreciated. All the rage now. All the rage.
You're not allowed tattoos?
Not on your. Let's be careful here. You're allowed tattoos or modest ones in parts. But if it's on your face or on the palms of your hand where you might salute, for example, then you can't do that. Then you can't have those. And I think people, again, it's a modern trends, modern values. People aren't always sort of, people aren't always up to scratch. And I think the final thing is, the army talked about this in a recruitment campaign earlier this year when they said sort of snowflakes, we want you. But I also wonder if people are really geared up emotionally to the idea of military service. I think a lot of, of course, one or two people, of course, some people are, but are people really in the in the 21st century attracted to the idea of possibly laying down your life for your country? I think once that was a very attractive idea, and it may well still be for some, but I don't think it's a very fashionable idea now.
No.
And I know we've had the D-Day. We had the D-Day commemoration recently, the 75th anniversary, but and of course there's huge respect for the sacrifices made by the veterans, those that survived, and of course those tragically that didn't. But there's also, I think, but also when you think about it, you think, do I want to, as you imagine yourself running up the beach and you're sort of suddenly putting yourselves in those brave veterans' shoes. I might die here, and the idea suddenly may be terrifying or not very attractive. And I think, it's fine to sort of, consume war in the movies or in the imagination.
I think you're absolutely right. Dan, thank you very much. Dan Saber joining us there, who's Defence and Security Editor. Guardian. What do you put this down to then? If you are a young person who's the armed forces, just isn't what you choose nowadays. Maybe you just have different expectations. Taking that risk, having to do the hard work as well. 0345 6060 973. Let's bring in Simon Hill, who's Army recruit.
It's any surprise the last 2 or 3 years the Army's been failing to hit its recruitment targets. As saying there's a lot of reason down the bombing of Libya and so on. People have looked at these and seen that they're they've not really been effective even on their own terms. They and peace when that has been promised. This isn't all here. What we're told about war and its effectiveness and what it achieves just doesn't turn out to be true.
So we've seen the foreign conflicts that we've been are not really a good advert. Don't have in those campaigns.
Yeah, I think that's actually if I'm far too old. I'll be down 40. They've grown up in an age. Actually, troops have been sent to wars, and while there may have been for the individual in the armed forces, of course, there hasn't been public support for any of those wars because essentially the public can see that sending troops to go on often at the behest of the US government makes
position then on and the union. Do you accept that we do need armed forces? You've got to have some kind of defence.
Well, the thing is, I'm not imagining that the armed force is going to disappear overnight, but I do question, whether the armed forces are making us any safer. We've seen the armed forces lately being used as being great, although we don't need, we could fund forces to do that without them being armed. And actually,
but don't we end the country, our borders, just in case you don't?
No. Well, people do, of course. You wouldn't need an army this big in the world. In practice, British armed forces, the tanks are made deliberately to be suitable for desert conditions. They're not against an invasion of Libya. The idea is that the armed forces have ended up, as we've seen in recent years, the British public have often not supported, and that really are driven by the US government, not by any defence of for individuals within the armed forces. Many of their motives. Ultimately, I don't think that armed forces are making us any safer. We really need to say how causes of war, how can we spend money to tackle things that are driving war, poverty, power, other things, so that we get away from just solve deep-seated problems.
Thank you very much, Simon Hill, joining us. Campaign at the Peace Pledge Union. So going down, there's a recruitment. Why are people not being drawn towards military service? 0345 6063. More in a moment on BBC.
This
BBC Business Hour with Ian from 8, answering questions from new startups to established companies.
When it comes to selling your startup business, nobody can actually have that passion that you've got for it yourself. For me, that's why the rate is high, because they don't.
And all of a sudden I'm going to talk
probably freedom.
What about